Harris slams protesters during book tour. You want to talk about legacy? Let's talk about the legacy of mass deportations, of not voting, and Donald Trump. Liberals will cling on to this battle forever, and they'll say, like, you guys up, you guys up. They don't understand. That's not how democracy works. The failure is on the party. They got billions of dollars, man. They got billions of dollars.
I'm not president. And if you want to talk about legacy, let's talk about the legacy of mass deportation of people not voting, and Donald Trump. I'm not.
This video pissed me off so much yesterday. I yelled and scared the fuck out of my mom. She was not pleased with me. I don't know. I don't know how to like explain this to people. I think a lot of people who are liberals, they wanna think about this from like team sports perspectives, not realizing that Kamala Harris's reactionary position, advancing Biden's position on border policy, a right-wing border policy, also played a role in people assuming that the Republicans were right on the border stuff. If only there was a guy who just kept repeating this even before the election cycle. Do you guys remember, even at the early stages of Trump's mass deportation initiatives, you had a bunch of people, including Chris Murphy, try to present this as like, we're the ones who are strong on deportations, not the Republicans. Chris Murphy went out and straight up said, Biden was deporting 15,000 migrants when he was in charge. Trump is only deporting 5,000 migrants. That's a crazy thing to say. Like, nobody thinks you're the mass deportation party. Everybody just looks at you and thinks that you're indecent, that you're a liar, that you got caught in a lie, that you are hypocritical when they see that. There's no moral reason to obviously abide by the media environment born out of hysteria that the Republicans have designed. And there is certainly no reason to hand it to the Republicans on any of these issues, especially because it's not real. And we're seeing what happens when a not real issue becomes a major point of contention, and then the solution is this incredibly militarized ICE engaging in the unjustifiable and immoral practice of mass deportations, kidnapping people from the side of the street, demanding people's papers. That's where we're at. It's so depressing, dude. It's so depressing, because if Democrats don't understand that they cannot do this. Here, yeah. In the first week, Trump removed 7,300 people on average. Biden was removing 15,000 a week. Under Biden, 72% of ICE arrests were criminals. Under Trump, it dropped to around 50%. Trump is removing less people and less criminals. These guys are terrible at everything. January 30th, 2025. Like, that's a unacceptable. That is a person who looked at the outcome of this election and still didn't understand why they lost. Now, of course, now they're singing a different tune. Now they realize, like, oh, we have to actually present an opposition to the mass deportations, right? Yeah, this is from February 6, 2025. A Harris campaign organizer says senior officials ordered them to erase voters who asked about Gaza, marking emails as no response so they'd be removed from outreach. No engagement, no persuasion, just ignored. The only clowns are the ones who decided to abdicate on this. On the Gaza stuff, once again. Like, I'm trying to talk about this in a more holistic fashion, okay? This is the problem at the heart of the Democratic Party. Their endless need for bipartisanship, their endless need for compromise against an uncompromising and increasingly reactionary force is causing this country to move in the direction of fascism. We're there right now. And there are still some in the consulting class that actively try to do this, where they're like, no, we have to consistently capitulate to right-wing framing on issues, funding the police, a strong border policy, like trans issues, maybe even gay issues later down the line. If Republicans dominate on the trans stuff as they have been, they're going to eventually start, and they have already started, moving towards like undermining Obergefell or doing a whole bunch of other shit, like not allowing gay couples to like adopt children and stuff like that. All you do in that situation is basically tell everybody that is listening that the Republicans are right. The Republicans are right. We're wrong. They're right. But we'll be better than they are. We'll be stronger on this issue than they are. You cannot outflank the right on any of this stuff. You can't. You have to fight the right on this stuff. Not only because they're wrong, the Republicans are wrong on these issues, and you should have a sense of decency, but also because if you do concede, people just look at you and go, oh, so they were right all along. Okay, I'm going to vote for the right party. They just wanted to win the election without the left. They hate people like you. They hate the anti-war crowd. They hate the economic populace. They want 100 million Ezra Kleins. It was so obvious. It wasn't a mistake. No, I know. But the problem is you can't win an election like that. You just simply can't, because it's not just me or my audience. That's why it's such a silly argument, because many in this community still did end up voting for Kamala Harris. But it's people that have never heard of me, people that don't know who the I am at all, that also have the same anger and resentment. People that go, okay, what am I supposed to do with this information? Okay, that's it. That are sitting on the couch are not watching me. Okay, who choose the couch over the ballot on the day of the election, they're not tuning in to my broadcast. Okay, the people that are tuning into my broadcast are already actively tuned in all the time, even when politics is not so fun or interesting. Those are the people who are the most tuned into politics. Biden had multiple ways to pressure Netanyahu, including by publicly blaming him for repeatedly tanking ceasefire talks. Biden chose to give him political cover and material to continue the war. No U.S. president is as helpless as former Biden officials seem to want to pretend. Because now you got like Biden world trying to come out and act as though, you know, their hands were tied or some shit. Arab mediators literally kept begging Biden to publicly blame Netanyahu for sabotaging the ceasefire talks. A Saudi diplomat told me Biden didn't budge as he wanted to be remembered as the most pro-Israel president. Today, Israelis were applauding Trump's humiliation of Biden enthusiastically. It is an abject failure of epic proportion in every way, shape, and form. Dan Shapiro says, former U.S. ambassador to Israel, Dan Shapiro says, the ability to pressure Netanyahu was related to Netanyahu's total embrace of Trump and the complete lack of any domestic political blowback to the president for doing it. Biden did not have either of those conditions. Bullshit. Biden would have survived the political blowback because only a majority of Republican voters support arms shipments to Israel, and they were voting for Trump anyway. Majority of Dem and independent voters have dropped Israel. You are stuck in another era. The American public has moved. Not only has the American public firmly moved at this point, they were already moving at the time. And I showed the polling on the matter over and over again. I showed it so many times. There were poll after poll showed that Democratic Party voters, or people who were not just like reliable Dem voters, but people who had voted for the Democrats in the past, or people who would consider voting for the Democrats, said that any sort of initiative that scales back Israel's atrocity or denying weapons transfers to Israel would be seen as a benefit, and they would have absolutely voted. They would have absolutely voted for the Democrats if that happened. It was one of the many different reasons that the Democrats lost. It wasn't maybe it wasn't the most consequential, but it was just another relitigation of the problem at the core of the Democratic Party. This was emblematic of the major problem that the Democrats had in the election cycle, which is their refusal to listen to their base. Okay? They thought they could win by continuing to support Israel. They thought they could win in spite of Israel's unlimited child murder that many Americans could see. It is remarkable. And it is also additionally remarkable that they're still trying to find ands, ifs, and buts in this process to make it seem as though there was no other option. It wasn't just about Michigan, okay? Directly for Michigan, it played a major role, but it wasn't just about Michigan. It was for the entire country, because their inability to listen to reason, to listen to the crowd on the issue of Gaza, okay, was emblematic of the problems that many people saw with the Democrats. They would not listen. They would not actually try to separate themselves from the Republicans on this, and it caused people to stay home. This is precisely the reason why even if all of the third-party voters actually all united and voted for the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris still would have lost the election. This is why the idea that like, oh, third-party voters actually cost the election to Kamala Harris is stupid, especially this time around, because it wasn't as close as the previous Hillary Clinton-Trump bout looked like. It was not just Gaza, but Gaza was definitely significant. Do you blame people for not coming out to vote, or were they justified? This is silly. In a democratic process, you have to abide by the wishes of your voters, okay? There will never be a moment where I say, oh, these guys actually f***ed up. They didn't vote. It does not matter, okay? It's the party that f***ed up. It's the party that actually does not play its cards right. That's what democracy is about. That's what democracy is. They are supposed to motivate you to get out and vote. I always urge people on the importance of voting. Okay, you will never catch me saying, don't vote, voting sucks, anything like that. I'm not one of those guys. I never have been, and I never will be. Okay, it's the most significant, most consequential, least significant thing you can do. Okay, voting is very important. Having said that, the notion that people are supposed to vote for you due to harm reduction narratives that you didn't even actually do a decent job describing is a demonstrable failure. And it has been a demonstrable failure. The expectation that people are supposed to make up their own minds about how awful the Republican Party is and then move to vote for the alternative, it doesn't work unless people actually experience it. But even then, seemingly, if the Democrats don't present a counter narrative, if Democrats don't put up a fight against the Trump administration, then it still doesn't work. I mean, look at the Democratic Party's polling right now. Look at their approval ratings currently. They're underwater.